Welcome to Whispers of Oralune. Grab a favorite drink, take a seat, because we're gonna ramble for a bit. Um, Often when mind stills or slows down, especially after a busy day, wherein I got through the list of things that I had to get done or was expected of me to be done. There is this question that creates an itch in the back of my mind. And often I hear people asking the same question, especially after a boring or a really overwhelming day. That is this all there is? And that it is a rightful question because from our childhood we hear life is a blessing, it is a one time opportunity, and obviously this question arises that this is all there is. And fortunately or unfortunately, this is all there is. We live, laugh, love, legacy, and finally we leave. And irrespective of who we are, what we are doing, um, irrespective of the species and generation, this is the cycle. We live and we leave. But we do have a choice either to slow down and experience the journey or rush past. When you get a spare minute or something, just step out and watch the traffic or people walking by. And majority or mostly what we find is that most of the people or majority of the people will be or would be rushing past. Like there is something else out there that means more than this moment. And they lose temper at the slightest provocation, often overlooking the fact that that interaction was actually where life happened. It could have ended in a different way if we had perceived it in a different way. And this can also appear in a different way that is often we find ourselves, me included, scrolling through phone, like reels, watching reels or news updates, as if we don't stay connected 24/7, we are missing something really important. When actually we are letting the reality fall apart. That is, life is actually happening outside the screen, but we choose to stay within the screen, believing that keeping ourselves updated about who did something or what happened to someone is more important than going out and experiencing life. Actually experiencing life, not seeing Bali through a reel, but then finding ways to make it a reality. But the million-dollar question comes down to when did or how did we actually start treating life like something that we have to get through and not something that has to be experienced and cherished for the variety and the spices that it provides. Maybe it is because we have been growing up or we are growing up and is used to this narrative of productivity cycle, and we are so used to it that any minute spent not doing something or moving towards something is seen as a waste of time. And maybe it is time we start thinking or realizing the fact that the narratives that we have been growing on might be incomplete. Maybe life is not something to be treated like a checklist. Maybe it is how we live, love, and choose to experience life that really matters. Because when it comes to life, X doesn't mark the spot. X is where the grave lies. The real treasure is the journey, the process that takes us to the grave. And I think It's just time we start realizing that maybe life has to be or can be lived in a different way too. There is an alternative to our existence, like noticing the small things that we often overlook. That is the smile on someone's face when they see us, or being fully present when everything falls silent, and experiencing and being fully there rather than rushing to the next thing. Um, that is actually, or maybe that is actually where life is, or what life is all about. And that is what gives meaning to life. Because often we feel life to be meaningless and like a chore because we only focus on the grand things or the things that we have conditioned our mind to believe are the grand things. But in reality, that is not the case. Life happens in the small moments. Life happens when we are genuinely sharing a connection or laughing from the bottom of our heart. And maybe it is time we start thinking what we have been conditioned to believe or we have been following through the ages. Because when everything falls silent, who really recalls numbers and deadlines? It is often what stays behind that really matters, and that is what we take to the grave with us. It might be a person, a memory, or a feeling. Something like a feeling or a thought that I was here and it really mattered. Something that makes final moments on earth really enjoyable. And yeah, that's all for today. And I hope you got like something to think about or something that you could connect with. And until we meet again in these forgotten parts of our living, may your shadows hold stories and may your life happen in the moments in between. Take care. Bye bye.